Hello and welcome to Polyphonic Tarot again. Today, now we will be doing a Celtic cross for another querent, and this querent, she would like to know essentially about her relationship with her husband. So, in your email, you explained to me that your husband is essentially looking for a divorce at the moment, and that this basically has to do with some post-traumatic stress that you've had to go through, and that it has caused a division in your relationship with your husband. And so essentially you're looking for advice for this situation. Let me just go back to your original email. Can the current issues between your husband and you be resolved? Okay. So we'll see. Obviously, this is a very serious question, and so I will do my best to answer it as best I can. Of course, your significator, because you are a Sagittarius, today I'm going to be using the Queen of Wands to represent you in the reading, and we're going to be doing a Celtic cross for you today. Invoke the E-A-O that thou wilt send out of the great angel who art set over the operations of this secret wisdom, that he may lay his hands invisibly upon these consecrated cards of art, and that thereby we may obtain true knowledge of hidden things to the glory of thine ineffable name. Amen. Okay. Alright, so, bottom of the deck is the Lovers to start, so we're on the right track. Overall situation is adjustment, crossed by the Seven of Swords, crowned by the Ten of Swords, and grounded by the Prince of Swords. In the past you have the Ace of Discs, and in the future you have the Five of Discs. And up the side you have the Eight of Discs. For perspective, environment, Prince of Wands, hopes and fears, the Seven of Cups, and the overall outcome is the Ace of Wands. Alright, and underneath the Lovers, okay, I should share this. So underneath the Lovers is the Seven of Wands, and the Priestess and the Star, and then some other stuff, but not as important as those first few cards. But okay. I've taken some time to really look at this reading before I say anything about it. But I think I've got to share with you exactly what I see. And of course, I want to reiterate my disclaimer because I feel like that's important here. And of course, my disclaimer is always never substitute genuine, real, good advice from professionals with the advice from a tarot reading. And any and all decisions you make as an adult are decisions of your own and are not my responsibility. But I will be very honest with you. Your relationship with your husband is very dry. There is not much to sustain it, if I'm going to be very honest with you. And the reason for that is there's just no water in your relationship with him. There's very, very little water in this relationship, and the only amount of water that is here is more coming from your fear, I believe, that he'll, in order to find satisfaction, is going to cheat on you, or is going to pursue things that he really should not be pursuing. I think that that's your major concern here. And that is really the only water card that you have in your entire reading, with the Seven of Cups in your hopes and fears. The overall situation is adjustment, followed by, as an obstacle, the Seven of Swords. So the decision-making process is there. Clearly, this is a decision that's on the table. whether or not you should split up. But there is this pervading sense of inability to actually do so, to actually make the separation. There's this overall sense of lethargy about the whole thing. There's this idea that there's no real point to really making the decision one way or another. And possibly this is because the Prince of Swords is the basis of the situation. And the Prince of Swords resonates very strongly with all of the air cards you have right down the middle of your spread. This is definitely a concern that is related to mental things, to your mental health. And I suppose the reason I get that too, or the reason that gets confirmed for me, is the way Earth plays into your spread. And to talk about that, the Ace of Discs in your past, followed by the 8 of Discs in your perspective, I think is very interesting. Seems to me that you, in the past, possibly started making some progress with your PTSD, and it seems like there was a point where you started to make some progress, and you feel like you're still working on building that up. You're still trying to recover and trying to grow that small start that you had or have. So you're still in the process of trying to cultivate that. But your husband, I believe, is represented by the Prince of Swords here, and he's very undecided about the whole thing. To be very honest, I don't know that he's as serious about the split as he may be saying. Just because that 7 of Swords in the obstacle here, there's this overwhelming sense of not being able to go through with it. So I don't know how much of a real threat that actually is. However, it certainly is still a possibility. I can't deny the fact that it is still a possibility. And in which case, the seven of Swords, really, in that case, I think, also represents there's a lack of confidence there, and there's a lot of doubt in your relationship. There's a lot of doubt on his part on your ability to really change, and I think there's doubt on your part of being able to really do okay without your husband. And honestly, that the 10 of Swords in your advice position is interesting to me for fairly obvious reasons, since it connects not only to the Prince of Swords and adjustment, but it also does connect, and this is more of an intuitive connection than anything, but it is connecting for me with the Ace of Discs and the 8 of Discs as well. Because both of those have a solar influence, and so does the 10 of Swords. And just to explain that, the Sun in Virgo constitutes the 8 of Pentacles, and the Ace of Pentacles is, being Keter, is sort of like a mini Sun of sorts. So theoretically, we can draw a parallel between all of those different influences. So anywho, to kind of give you what that all means, the 10 of Swords, man, it is at one time referring to both the relationship, which it seems has possibly run its course, and it also possibly relates to you, and honestly, and to your mental health. And I honestly, I don't think that it's trying to say anything all that negative about you. I think it's trying to say that you need to make, you just need to be, you need to be lenient with yourself, because the PTSD is not likely to ever go away. I mean, I live with someone who also has PTSD, and it is not easy, but it doesn't really go away. And of course, I don't know the nature of your PTSD, and I don't know what exactly you've gone through, and it's none of my business. But whatever it is, it clearly has been traumatic enough on you where it's going to leave a scar. I think the Ten of Swords is trying to tell you that no matter what you do, this scar is always going to be there, and you're always going to have to deal with it, and you're always going to have to bear its burden. But the Ten of Swords, I think the wonderful thing about the Ten of Swords is, and thank God, it may be one of the most wonderful things Crowley ever wrote, just because it is sort of the one little glimmer of hope that we can ever get from receiving the Ten of Swords. And he's the one writer, I think, in the entire tarot universe to ever try to spin the Ten of Swords in a way that can be positive, and in a way that can make sense logically. You know, it's not just some fluffy New Age BS reason why the Ten of Swords is great for you. It's a legit reason, and it connects very directly to your reading, because he says that the Ten of Swords, and you may or may not find this interesting, but the Ten of Swords actually can be considered good in the sense that even though it represents destruction and ruin and terribleness on the part of human behavior, it still tries to say that despite all this destruction, there's always going to be something left over that's worth saving, that's always going to be salvageable, that's always going to be regrowable. And that is exactly what you're trying to do here. You're trying very hard to grow yourself back up and to work through this problem in as healthy a way as you possibly can, and in as patient a way as you possibly can. And so that's really the best that you can possibly do under these circumstances. And you deserve someone in your life who is going to be supportive of that, and who is going to try to understand that. And maybe your husband has tried and has done all that he personally can, in which case you have to be okay with that, and you have to be understanding of his limitations, and you also have to be understanding of the fact that maybe he's not the right person for you. You know, that maybe you just need someone who's going to be even more understanding or more capable of helping you get through this, you know. And I have this feeling that you know on some level that this relationship is not quite what you need right now, that it's not the support system structure that you need in order to heal the way that you need to. And unfortunately, healing is the most pressing factor for you right now with that Ten of Swords in your best possible outcome. You know, so I know that you're concerned about him hurting you in other ways. I know that you're concerned about him possibly, I believe that you're concerned about him running off and pursuing other things. And that is likely, or I should say that is a valid concern. You do have the Prince of Wands in your environment. So if it represents him, he's definitely kind of, he can be that kind of a guy, you know, kind of a rover. But, yeah, and that's also one of the few sources of fire cards. The alternative, however, is that it represents someone else in your environment who is possibly someone else that you could get romantic with, honestly. I just, to be honest with you, if I look further down in the deck, you do have the Ace of Cups with the Hermit. It's very far down, but it is there. The Hermit followed by the Ace of Cups. And that's an interesting little combo that can show that there is potential for you to still find happiness and fulfillment, even if you end up getting separated or divorced. You know, it, I just I don't know that staying in this relationship is exactly what is best for you. In the immediate future, you have the Five of Discs, just to move on here to press forward. Five of Discs resonates with all of your Earth, so all of the work that you're trying to do is going to experience setbacks in the immediate future. And this may or may not have something to do with the relationship with your husband. I really just think it's going to create more stress on you and more of an obstacle than you need right now. The Five of Discs is Mercury in Taurus, and the only other Mercury card that you have in your reading is the Lovers on the bottom of your deck. So the stress and the concern and the lack of feeling like you've gotten anywhere with your healing is going to be directly related to the further destabilization that is being caused by your relationship with someone who it doesn't even seem like he knows what he wants. Like, if the Prince of Swords indicates any indication of his personality type in regards to making this decision, he's just very indecisive. If it's you, it could also be you, for that matter. It could also be you, and it could also be representing the fact that you're very indecisive and you're also very uncertain as to how you should play your cards with this situation, or how you should deal with this situation. I don't know. I think that this is something that you really need to think quite a lot about. Your overall outcome, if this continues, is the Ace of Wands, and so the Ace of Wands is fairly hopeful and is fairly optimistic here, I think, as far as saying that there is potential for something new to come out of this, in the sense that, possibly you'll be able to, there is possibly an opportunity for you to rekindle things in a way. But it's a very small possibility. It's not affected by a whole lot else that's here. The only other card that supports it, actually, is the Prince of Wands in your environment. So the way I read that is, it's more likely for you to become interested in someone else than it is for you to really rekindle anything with your current husband. But the Ace of Wands being an ace, it is possible that it could represent something more with what you already have. I think what I want you to take away from this is the need to really think about what's actually best for you. I think you have to be realistic with the amount of change that you're going to be able to accomplish, and that's not to depress you or make you feel like it's pointless, because again, it already feels like it's pointless. You already have this Seven of Swords pervading the situation. I'm not trying to compound that, but I think you still have to be realistic about the fact that you've experienced what you've experienced, whatever it is, and that's permanent baggage. It's only your way of dealing with it and your perspective that can change in relation to it. Because you're never going to just cut it out entirely. It's never going to just disappear. So it's how you work with it, and how you choose to deal with it. And you have to realize that it's very that it has a huge influence on your well-being and the quality of your life. And so whether you like it or not, obviously, we hope that it's not something that comes to dominate your life or ever forces you to make decisions that you don't really want to make. If divorce is really not something that you really want, then okay, then I stand totally corrected. But if you feel that it's getting more in the way, or if you feel like your relationship is getting more in the way than it needs to, or if it's something that you just really aren't all that invested in, other than just because you think that he's providing you with possibly some kind of safety net that, I don't know, whatever it is you think that he's providing you with. I mean, if that's more important to you, then so be it. But I really think that it wouldn't be. I just don't think it would be the end of the world if it did happen, to be very honest with you. And I think that's the most I can say about it. Um, there is possibly some hope for this um, to pick back up in the future. And again, I don't know how sure he is of what he's doing right now anyway. He may change his mind. Um, I think he honestly just prefers to think about it more than he does actually, more than he actually wants to do anything about it. Um, but I could be wrong. So, um, honestly, that's about it. You don't really have a whole lot of resonance here besides what we've already talked about. Um, so yeah, that's about all I've got for you today. So I hope that makes sense and sort of clarifies your situation a little bit for you. Um, I just think that it's important for you to focus on your well-being more than anything else, because there are signs of unhealthfulness, if that's even a word, um, in the form of the five of discs and the seven of cups, and the 10 of swords, really. And so this is more. It's more important for you to make sure that you're on a path to healing. And again, I don't know that if. And maybe that's all you need to say. Maybe you need to phrase it like that to him. Maybe you just need to tell him, like, look, if you really loved me and if you really cared about me, my recovery and my well-being would be also important to you. And if that isn't something that you can at least respect, then our relationship is sort of at moot point right now. And maybe a temporary separation would be healthy for both of you. Maybe if you put it that way, as a temporary split, in which case, but maybe that would exacerbate your fears too, because I know, I sense that you're afraid of him going off. The Seven of Cups there in your hopes and fears. Um, but maybe possibly he needs that, to realize that he already loves what he has. I don't know. Men are so weird, and people are weird in general, but men particularly are bizarre. So I don't know. This is not as conclusive, I realize, as perhaps you would have liked, but I hope that it at least provides you with some food for thought. And I definitely think that this is more of a decision that you need to make on your own than anything else. To be very honest with you, being such an important life decision. Um, so let me know if you have any questions, and I hope it helps. And thank you as always for your purchase. And I really wish you the best of luck with this. This is not an easy situation, but I trust that if you ask for it, the right influences will come and help. All right. So again, wish you the best of luck, and really take care, and many blessings to you. All right.